Howdy, howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast, number 373, the Muscle Memory Advantage. How are you folks doing? I hope you are stuffed and feeling very thankful and had a marvelous Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving weekend. I hope your football team won. Most of mine did. And of course, mine are the same as Sharon's. So, there you go. It was a marvelous weekend. I appreciate all you reaching out. It's always great to hear from you folks. So I'm very grateful and thankful. Hey, this podcast is again being recorded on Adobe Beta Podcast, which um, in one spot the word beta is gone, and the other spot the word beta is still there. So I wonder if we're getting closer. But the transcript will be on the podcast blog page. A couple of you keep telling me you really appreciate that, so we will keep doing that. It's part of the beta program from the Adobe group. Hey, I want to give a big shout out thanks to my good friend at Bedford Camera, bedfords.com. Now, I've been talking to you folks about these guys for a long time. It's because I've been shopping at Bedford's for a long time, and they got that amazing Nikon Z600 F4TC in my hands. I know they got the 600, the new Z600 PF to another person. I mean, they just keep shipping the gear, but I wanna strip gears for a second. Did you know Bedford sells socks? Yeah, as in for your feet, between your foot and your shoes. They've got, yeah, I know it's going to sound weird. They've got some amazing photography socks there at the store. Now, I'm not talking about some special ones that are for cold temperatures, or I'm talking about really cool ones that you wear to, show your pride, your abilities, your ankles off. They're really cool photographic character socks. Yeah, I know, a little weird off the beat, but I really like them. My youngest son Jake loves to get me aviation socks, so I've hinted to the family that I want some Bedford photography socks this Christmas. Yeah, they got the other good stuff too, cameras and bodies and lenses and accessories. And of course, when you check out, they've got that Moose discount you receive once you're out of there. But hey, Bedfords.com, they've got everything, including socks, photographic. So thank you, Bedfords, for sponsoring the Moose Podcast. I'm going to get right into this week's episode, the Muscle Memory Advantage. I had the good fortune of being in Philly a week ago doing a presentation on the arts and craft of bird photography for Unique Photo, and had a marvelous standing room only crowd, great group. Thanks so much for coming out, you guys. It really was. I enjoyed that. Anyway, we're talking photography, hard to believe, and I brought up muscle memory, and this one gentleman said, "Boy, sounds like you got that muscle memory advantage that I wish I had." And I thought about it for a moment, and the muscle memory advantage. Had never thought of it that way, even though I taught some youngsters for a while, and muscle memory was what they were all into. It never had, and I've talked about it. It never occurred to me that it's an advantage. Well, muscle memory. So muscle memory. The definition on the web, and so you gotta remember it's the web. But it says muscle memory is a neurological process that allows you to remember certain motor skills and perform them without conscious effort. Skill retention from muscle memory can potentially last forever, barring any neurological or physical ailments. So that's kind of, I never had thought about the actual, meaning of it. A neurological process that allows you to remember certain motor skills and perform them without conscious effort. Let's be honest, that if you have that for certain things, that can be a really, really a big advantage. We have to all admit that the process of watching that subject and depressing the shutter release at the key moment, especially if you're in sniper mode, to get the shot, there is a lot going on. And I've mentioned that I've always have tried to eliminate as many variables in the photographic process. So my mind is strictly on that subject. So that gentleman at the show, when he said I have a muscle memory advantage, I think he kind of really nailed it on the head. And something that I've never put a label to that. I thought this podcast I should. And of course, we need some examples. How can you get the muscle memory advantage? I'm going to start off with, I've talked about this, and people usually when I do a live presentation, they kind of snicker. They go back to ask to Sharon, is he really telling the truth? Does he really do that? Because what I'm going to tell you sounds really just so off the wall that people just think I'm making stuff up. And of course, I do have that T-shirt that says "I make shit up." Okay, so but no, there's as some of my participants can tell you on my adventures. There's two things I don't kid about: photography and food. So what I have done, and I've done this, and I have no idea how it started. I've done this forever, and I still do it. I still do it. And of course, that's part of the muscle memory thing, right? Is that uh, to perform those skills without any kind of conscious effort. The skill retention means you practice, right? You've got to practice this stuff. So what I've done forever, I mean, in the film days, back then I didn't have film. No, that's right. I had that dummy roll of film. Come think about it. I had a couple of dummy rolls of film. Those are film that were just never going to be exposed on a subject, but I could run them through the camera for testing. Anyway, I'd have a camera in my hand, and I would literally, while I was being a couch potato, sitting, um, watching TV or listening to music or whatever, I had the camera in my hand, and what I did was just had the camera there, and I'd rest my finger, and the Nikon, the on-off switch has that little lip, and I would rest my hand on it and my finger on it, and I would slowly, and had the camera set to continuous high. I would practice just deadhead, first rolling the finger on that shutter release to activate the camera, and then depressing harder to fire the camera. Something I've done forever. Um, and I know it sounds like stupid and like useless, but the vast majority of people who have image problems and focus problems is because there's just the slightest bit of movement on that right side of the camera when you take a picture, and that slight tilting causes images to be out of focus. And I've done that. Still, I still do it. I just, you got to have the lightest touch in order to, one, activate the camera, and two, take just one frame when the camera's set to fire. In the case of the Z9, 20 frames per second. That simple light touch and be able to fire one frame and not 20 when you're set continuous high is muscle memory. And why would that be an advantage? Had a discussion again during that presentation about shooting at low shutter speeds. And two things. One, I don't crank the ISO up, which seemed to shock a bunch of the people in the audience. I just don't crank up the ISO. And I explained to them that's my thing. You don't have to do it. And I'm old and started in the days of film. And one person asked me, what does ASA stand for? And I'm like, oh boy, ASA. Yeah, that was it for a long time. Not, ISOs everybody knows now. But anyway, um, that ability to shoot at slow shutter speeds and then stopping once the light isn't there, because the word photograph means basically right with light, is that practice that I do just rolling my finger on the shutter release. And yeah, I think that's a huge advantage. That's just a monstrous advantage. In firing just one frame, that's yes, that's sniper mode. But more importantly, is that your touch is that refined. You're not moving that camera, and that comes that advantage comes not from just shooting at slow shutter speeds or holding a camera, but especially when you get that long lens on a tripod, because all that movement starts back at the camera, travels through that lens, hits the front element, and comes back in a wave. So there's that. I know it sounds silly, and there's nothing I can say for it other than I hold the camera and I practice that. And you would be surprised the difference in your photography once you have that muscle memory and you practice it. All this is practice. Whether I shoot today or not, I will practice that. The next big thing is hand holding. And I know a lot of people do not practice their hand holding. And I've mentioned it many times. I got another email this week, which kind of why I'm doing this topic this week. This is a simple thing. I go out shooting on Saturday, and my images always are sharper on Sunday than Saturday. How come? It's because Saturday you're getting to know your friend again. On Sunday, you're back in the groove. So proper hand holding is now a muscle memory. So how do you make that advantage? It just takes a few minutes every day. And I know all too well that few minutes easily said than done. I understand that part. But seriously, I set the camera so I have a 1/20th, 1/20 shutter speed. So I close down the aperture. That, of course, will make it even harder to, have the tack sharp image. And I will shoot so I get a sharp image, basically minimum 8 out of 10 times. And I'll practice that for 5 minutes every day. I hand hold, and I'll vary up the lens. Right now, I'm doing it mostly with the Z600 F4 TC, and yeah, I'm not getting 8 out of 10. It's probably six, maybe seven. Maybe I got a seven. A lot of 5s out of 10s where they are sharp, but I continually practice. It's not like, poof, I just I do it every bloody day, and I still do the curls with a 10-pound weight in the my left arm, and it's again it's that muscle memory advantage that we're talking about. And the advantage isn't like we're in some competition with others. It's the advantage is being able to clear the mind of all the basic things that have to occur when we take a picture, so we can think about the nuances, that gesture, that light, the exposure compensation to tell a story. That's what we need to concentrate on, not on this basic technique. So hand holding, just to go over it real quickly, you're going to first of all take your left hand and you're going to turn that palm towards the heavens. It's uncomfortable, but you want the camera gear, gravity, the weight pushing down in your palm. You're going to then wrap your right hand around that camera body and put your index finger on the shutter release, because you've been practicing to roll your finger on that shutter release, not jab at it. You're going to tuck your elbows into your side and you're going to pull that camera into your forehead. And remember, Z9 owners, if you wear glasses, there is a setting so you can see the whole viewfinder, the 100% image, even if you're wearing your glasses. It's the first and only camera that has that, and it's a biggie, okay? And then you're going to take photographs. I do not hold my breath and let it out like I'm a sharpshooter with a rifle. I just can't keep that much in my mind. But I'm going to practice that and practice that and practice that. Then we're going to take this to long lens technique, and we're going to rest our hand on top of that lens barrel. We're going to push our eye against an eye cup. If you wear glasses, again, same thing with the Z9. And then we're going to roll our finger on that shutter release, and we're going to practice that. We're going to stand between our tripod legs, not have a leg of the tripod between ours. And we're going to practice that and at the same shutter speed. And once you get comfortable hand holding and long lensing, you're starting to nail that that really long exposure, okay, of something that's not moving, yeah, push yourself. Start photographing something that's moving. Now, if you're shooting 1/20, don't do a race car. I mean, right? And do something that's realistic, and it's not going to make you get 0 out of 10 sharp ones, but you keep pushing it. And you got to do it every day. You've got to do it every day. Now, what's the what's the coup de grace to the muscle memory advantage? Well, this occurred to me as I was flying back from Philly. The other, when that person said to me, "I got a muscle memory advantage," that occurred to me. The other thing is how I have the settings in my camera. Now, my settings on the website, they're there for all the camera bodies. And no, they're not some like magical, moment that came down from the heavens. They're just the ones that I use that work with what? My muscle memory, how I think about where those things are, and how easy I can reach them with basically the thumb, index, and middle finger. Those fingers kind of are, the right hand are really kind of important. Now, there is one addition I have made lately with the Z600 F4TC, and I have programmed inside the Z9 and Z8. So the last ring on the 600 F4TC, it doesn't do a 360. It's a rotating switch, and I've set that now so when it's engaged, it goes to DX crop mode, and when it's disengaged, it's just back to regular full frame. So it just takes a simple twist. So I have been practicing, I guess now for the last month to be able to do that too. That's a left-handed muscle memory, but the right hand, I have the I button programmed on those bodies. So I depress that, I can instantly, change the two things that probably get changed I think there's three things. I'm going to say three things. There is the picture control, because I'm going from standard to black and white, monochrome, but black and white, because monochrome, we don't shoot monochrome, we shoot black and white. Anyway, so I got picture control. I have the white balance, and I have my focusing mode, 3D, auto area. And those three things for me, I have at the I button. Now, there are a number of Z lenses. You can program some of these functions into the lens with a button or a rotating collar. And you can basically program any button on the Z8, Z9 to do basically anything you want it to do or combination. The thing is you need to figure out what you change the most often, what you need in a hurry. Because if we're photographing a coin collection, right, there is nothing that's in a hurry. If you're photographing anything that's moving, right, be it clouds, critters, aircraft, people, there is some urgency in the way we set up those things. So set up that the buttons on the camera so they make sense to the way you think, and then practice changing them. Not when it's important, but build up that muscle memory. Again, you can go to my website, you can see what I use, and then think about it and use some logic to how you program that thing, those buttons. I mean, muscle memory is a neurological process. Neurological means it's in the head, okay, that allows you to remember certain motor skills. Not every single one. That's important. Certain motor skills, and perform them without conscious effort. And when that gentleman says that I have a muscle memory advantage, he really hit it on the head. It's something you can have as well. You can enjoy that same advantage because when you can just, without having to stop and peck through menus, stop and think about, where's the tripod leg, and stop thinking about, proper hand holding. When all those kind of for lack of better label, basics are now just a muscle memory. They're not taking up any of your gray matter. They just are unfolding. Then you can just enjoy that moment. You can bring that moment into that viewfinder and you can make that unique, special, what you've gone out so hard to see an actual photograph that then you can share. And boy, when you can do that, you really have the muscle memory advantage. You folks have a marvelous week. Thanks so much again for dropping by and all the kind words. And remember to make every click your story.